All right, everybody, welcome to Brighter. So today we're going to be looking at all the different catalysts that are upcoming in the near term Q3 and Q4. We know that Cybertruck is coming. The Model 3 Highland has gone off to a great start. The UAW strike that's happening is a potential benefit to Tesla. The fourth quarter volume is looking like it's going to be high. The negatives, of course, are things like the Q3 numbers were a little lower than some folks were expecting. So to cover all that, we've got Jeff Lutz joining us, and he's going to give us a little bit of his commentary. Welcome, Jeff. Appreciate you joining.
Great to be with you.
So Jeff is a C-level supply chain executive and past QA officer at a number of Fortune 100 companies, and now he's running his own consulting firm. So let's take a look at the near-term catalyst. Just one easy way to do this is looking at Gary Black and his kind of analysis of what he thinks are the positive and negatives. And then from there, we can take a look at what you think, what he's saying doesn't make sense, what you think is accurate. His list of positives: the UAW strike keeps extending. The Cybertruck launch is going to produce a halo effect. And again, he keeps comparing this, and I totally agree with him, with the Model S and the Model 3 launch. When that happened, we did see a huge uptick in stock, or the stock value. Although the difference is that those were actual production numbers, and we think that Cybertruck might actually be lower scale. The M3 Highland came up really well, and now it's going to be available in the fourth quarter in China, not yet available here in the US. The fourth quarter volume could actually be over 500,000. The auto GMs for Tesla has bottom in third quarter. You've got a lot to say about this, of course. And then the FSD licensing deal is something that we've all been thinking might be coming around the corner at any one moment. Something can be announced. Energy is possibly going to be actually reported in the fourth quarter, as they had said in the second quarter, that possibly by third or fourth quarter they would include it in the production volume delivery announcements, and then maybe something like FSD in 2024. What's your thoughts on this list of positives, Jeff?
I think Gary does a great job of summarizing this, and I agree with a lot of them. Just to add some color, so yeah, the UAW strike, it looks like they're pretty far apart on a number of. I mean, last week you had both sides. Again, major CEOs, Ford and GM, accusing, and then the UAW president accusing them of not being at the negotiating table, and just huge disconnects of where they're at. So that looks like that's going to continue to extend. At some point, here's the way the dynamics work. I think people look at inventory of these auto manufacturers. They look, they had a lot of inventory actually, and they should be fine. And for the most part, they will be fine. But what's going to happen is not all inventory is created equal. Some vehicles had 100 days of inventory. Some vehicles had 20 days of inventory. And so if they start hitting the vehicles, and I think the UAW team is looking at these opportunities, kind of the vehicles with the highest sellout rate and the lowest inventory. I think they're hitting some pretty important product lines for them. So you are going to start seeing stock outs. It's a way for the UAW to minimize the strike fund that they're using, so they don't put everybody out on strike at the same time, and also kind of have some good faith in negotiating. But they're also hitting the product lines, I believe, that are pretty important for these companies. So I think there's a little bit there. I think the Cybertruck, I do agree with the halo effect. I think you're gonna have people coming into a Tesla shop or store to look at this vehicle, to test drive it eventually when it's in stock and available to be test driven, or just to view it. And then as soon as you're done viewing that vehicle, you're going to look over, you're going to see Model 3, you're going to see Model Y or Model S or X. And not everybody in every family is interested in one car at one point in time, or they may tell their friend, or Tesla may be giving test drives to them, and in various different vehicles, say, look, hey, when the Cybertruck's available, this is what you can expect. I mean, I think there's a number of different things, but I believe the halo effect's going to be there. I think you're going to see it in all kind of popular magazines, internet publications. You're going to see it in news shows. You're going to see it on TV shows. You're going to see it in movies. And it is going to draw people to Tesla, the name, the brand, and I do see a halo effect. The Model 3 Plus, I think so that is going to launch in China, rest of Asia, and Europe. So it's undergoing a fairly big launch, and I believe that they had a significant build of stock in Q3. you have to put them on a kind of a poker term, put them on a hand or put them on put them on a number. But, is it, they pre-build 30,000 of those cars, 50,000? I think that range of vehicles is not too far off in terms of how many did they pre-build, going all the way back to the latter part of August and into September. And those vehicles weren't available to sell in Q3. So that's part of the inventory. Like, why didn't the inventory draw down tremendously in Q3? I think they built it up with Model 3 Pluses that weren't available to sell just yet. So that's going to hit in October and November in Q4 as they arrive to their destinations and they're approved for sale. So that'll be a nice boost. Plus, the car is getting great reviews. So I think it's going to pull people off the sidelines that weren't necessarily, in the market or didn't like the other Model 3 that may have put them over the edge. The 500K number, potentially for product, I believe they're going to have a record production number, a record delivery number for Q4. And that's a big deal. It's a big deal for Tesla. It's a big deal for their suppliers. One is it's going to start, again, pressing the extremes of utilization in their factories. And then they're, again, while the UAW is striking in North America, while the UAW is striking, Tesla is going to be pulling every part from inventory they can from every supplier they possibly can. So this gives Tesla tremendous leverage again, as production just continues to grow in a straight line throughout the year. And then on a yearly CAGR basis, Tesla can bring that chart into suppliers and say, look, when I forecast it, I take it. Two is I'm continuing to grow, and I've showed you this for the last 3 years, and I've delivered every single year. I've taken every part that I've asked from you. That is tremendous leverage within the supply base. Right now, the legacy or the ICE vehicle supply base is essentially overcapacitized. There's some estimates in the 30 to 40% range in terms of access or available capacity that suppliers and the OEMs have built up for themselves that they're not actually using. And that's really weighing on their cost structure and their margins. So the 500K number for Tesla is actually quite a big deal. It shows them continuing to stretch the limits and continuing to grow. The gross margin piece, I do see that bottoming effect occurring. I think I've always said Q3 was going to be kind of messy with depleting some inventory from Q2, doing a slower when you start up a new model, the Model 3 Plus, you're not going to build that at the same economics as the prior model that you'd spent 6 years on building in the factory. So they work through that learning curve. And so a lot of that stuff will be flushed out in Q3. I think Q4 is going to be quite good in terms of their cost structure. They're going to be greater utilization in Austin. They did all the retrofits there. And I believe they're going to continue to improve in gross margins. And the final point on that is, again, tying the gross margin piece and the volume piece together. Again, that's a big story for suppliers, but it's also a big story for Tesla and the utilization rate of their equipment in their factories. So I think they're in a good spot. And the Model 3 Plus looks like they're selling it for slightly more. Again, it's going to account for some of that early buildup of the product where they're going up their own ramp curve and their suppliers are going up their ramp curve. But also, I believe that product is going to land eventually with lower unit economics than the one it's replacing. And they're selling it still for a higher amount. So I think Model 3 Plus is going to be a gross margin win for Tesla. And I believe in the future, Cybertruck is going to be a significant gross margin win for Tesla, both on the vehicle, then all the configurations they'll sell the vehicle, and then all the aftermarket, but also Tesla accessories that they're going to sell for that vehicle. I think the Cybertruck's going to be a gross margin powerhouse. And then FSD, I've said this, it takes about, over 2, possibly 3 years from the time you say go to the time a potential partner, we're talking about the licensing piece here of FSD, for the time you come to an agreement to the time you can actually be in production with your vehicle. It's a multi-year process to do that. So I think if someone is going to step up and do that, it's going to be rather imminent in my estimations. Again, not investment advice, but I would say in the next 3 to 6 months, you would hear potentially the first of many deals of somebody signing on with Tesla for FSD. And then just Tesla alone, in terms of FSD and getting to a level 4, or just getting to that point where it's out of beta. We saw the V12 demo in August, and they're continuing to make progress on that in the background. They were in Q3. They actually started shipping vehicles with FSD preloaded. That is a first for Tesla. We saw people actually taking deliveries. If they'd ordered FSD in the past, if you ordered it, you would have to, it would be a download after vehicle delivery, and then you have to wait some period of time. And so now they have much greater confidence in the software release and in the performance of it. And they moved it, the auto steer on streets, out of coming soon into, it's here. So I think they're going to start taking more and more credit for FSD in terms of margins and dollars for the quarter. So I'll pause there.
Yeah, that's great. No, thank you. We'll cover the negatives, the possible negative catalysts in another show. But really, Q4 is amazing, right? We've got, the factories that are up and running, scaling quite a bit. Costs are going down. We got 2 new vehicles, the Model 3 Highland and Cybertruck in place. We got great progress at FSD. A lot of this will start showing up in Q4, and we're going to have a number of presentations as well to show the progress. Thank you, Jeff. That was fun. I appreciate you joining us.
Great to be with you. Thanks, Herbert.
All right. So follow Jeff at the Jeff Lutz on Twitter and X. Talk to you soon, everybody. Bye-bye. If you can, please consider supporting this channel. You can get for free 3 milestone tables that list every major milestone Tesla's ever had since 2003. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.